The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 200 different worlds sat in their assigned seats, each one wearing the expression of someone who knew bad news was coming. The crystalline beings from Vextai clicked their glass-like fingers against their armrests. The floating energy creatures from Arcturus Prime pulsed with worried colors. Even the ancient stone beings from Granite Prime, who usually slept through these meetings, kept their glowing eyes wide open. At the center of the hall, Admiral Zexthor of the Hegemony Fleet stood behind a holographic display showing star charts. Red markers covered nearly half the galaxy's outer rim. Each red dot represented a solar system that had gone completely silent in the past month. "The situation is worse than we first thought," Admiral Zexthor said, his forearms gesturing at the display. "Whatever is consuming these systems is moving faster than our scouts can track. We have lost contact with over 300 worlds." A voice spoke up from the lower seats. "What about the patrol fleets? Surely someone has seen what is doing this?" Admiral Zexthor's expression grew darker. "The patrol fleets are gone, all of them. We sent the Mighty Claw battle group to investigate the Kelvin system 3 days ago. Yesterday we received one transmission, 10 seconds of screaming, then nothing." The hall erupted in worried chatter. The Mighty Claw was one of the most powerful battle groups in the galaxy. Its flagship alone was 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. "Silence," Admiral Zexthor commanded. "We need solutions, not panic. Every member species must contribute ships and resources to a combined defense fleet. We will make our stand at the Barrier Nebula." One by one, representatives stood to pledge their forces. The Vextai offered 50 crystal ships, each one grown from living diamond and powered by stellar cores. The Arcturus delegation promised 30 energy vessels that could phase through solid matter and strike from any angle. The mechanical forge lords committed their entire automated battle fleet. Near the back of the hall, in one of the smaller seats reserved for minor species, Ambassador Sarah Martinez listened quietly. She was the only human in the room, representing a species that most of the galaxy barely noticed. Humans had been part of the Galactic Council for only 50 years, and their territory consisted of just 12 star systems around an unremarkable yellow star. When her turn came, Ambassador Martinez stood slowly. "Earth pledges its full support to the defense effort. We will contribute all available vessels to the fleet." A few representatives chuckled quietly. Everyone knew what all available vessels meant for humanity. Perhaps 20 frigates and a handful of cruisers. Their largest warship, the UES Columbia, was barely 800 meters long. It was the kind of ship that more advanced species used for cargo transport. Ambassador Kethvar, the Council's senior member, barely looked in her direction. "Thank you, Ambassador Martinez. Your contribution is noted." Martinez sat down without another word. She did not mention the encrypted message she had received that morning from Earth Command. She did not speak about the massive energy signatures that deep space sensors had detected moving toward human space. Most importantly, she said nothing about Project Titan. Back in the Sol system, far beyond the orbit of Pluto, something impossible was happening. Hidden within a construction facility the size of a small moon, teams of human engineers worked around the clock on humanity's greatest secret. The facility had been built in total secrecy over 25 years, using resources stripped from 3 entire star systems. Chief Engineer David Kim floated through the facility's central corridor, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck plates. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see the ship that would change everything. It stretched out for 30 kilometers, its dark hull reflecting the distant light of the sun. Weapon systems that existed nowhere else in the galaxy lined its sides. Drive systems based on theoretical physics that other species had dismissed as impossible hummed with contained power. "Status report," Kim said into his communicator. "Quantum drive systems at 98% efficiency," came the reply from the engine bay. "Gravitational lance batteries fully charged. Adaptive armor plating responding within normal parameters. All AI systems online and ready." Kim nodded. 27 years of work was finally complete. While the galaxy had focused on building bigger versions of the same old technology, humanity had started from scratch. They had studied every alien ship design they could find, learned from every battle recording, and then built something entirely new. The inspiration had come from humanity's own history. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the New World, the Aztec warriors fought bravely with obsidian clubs and cotton armor. But all their courage meant nothing against steel swords and gunpowder. The conquistadors won not because they were braver or stronger, but because they had better technology. Humanity refused to be the Aztecs of space. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the project's lead scientist, joined Kim at the viewing window. She had aged 20 years during the project, her black hair now streaked with silver. "The council meeting was today," she said quietly. "I know," Kim replied. Martinez played her part perfectly. "They still think we're just another minor species, with outdated ships." "Are you sure this will work?" Vasquez asked. "We've run every simulation we can think of, but we've never faced anything like what's coming." Kim was quiet for a moment, watching maintenance crews make final adjustments to the ship's outer hull. "Our ancestors built the pyramids with copper, tools and human muscle. They split the atom with slide rules and vacuum tubes. They reached the moon with computers less powerful than children's toys. Humans have always found a way. Deep in the ship's core, the most advanced artificial intelligence ever created by human hands processed millions of calculations per second. It had been taught human history, human literature, and human philosophy. It understood concepts like sacrifice, determination, and righteous anger. Most importantly, it had been programmed with one absolute directive: protect humanity and its allies at any cost. The AI, which had chosen the name Artemis, monitored communications from across the galaxy. It listened to the panic spreading through the council chambers as more systems went dark. It analyzed every scrap of data about the approaching threat, building tactical models and battle plans. Unlike the organic minds around it, Artemis felt no fear. But it understood the concept of duty, and it was ready to fulfill its purpose. Meanwhile, in the outer system defense stations, human crews received new orders. Standard patrol routes were quietly abandoned. Civilian ships were diverted away from the system's edge. Emergency evacuation plans were updated and tested. Nobody spoke about what was coming, but everyone knew. The galaxy's greatest nightmare was moving toward human space, and soon the pretending would be over. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Station Armstrong, watching the massive ship through the facility's cameras. In 3 days, she would take command of humanity's greatest creation. She had trained for this moment her entire life, studying every battle in human history, learning from every victory and defeat. "Tomorrow we begin final crew boarding," her executive officer said quietly. Chen nodded. "Make sure everyone understands. Once we launch, there's no going back. The galaxy will finally see what humans can do when they stop holding back." In the binge, darkness between stars, something vast and hungry continued its approach toward the core worlds, consuming everything in its path. It had no idea that it was about to encounter a species that had spent 3 decades preparing for exactly this moment. The first attack came without warning in the Kepler sector, 47 light-years from the galactic core. The mining colony on Kepler 442b had been extracting rare metals for the Galactic Trade Network when their communications suddenly cut off. Rescue ships found nothing but empty space where a thriving world had been. Admiral Zexthor studied the reports from his flagship's command center. The Eternal Vigilance was 3 kilometers of crystalline armor and plasma cannons, the pride of the hegemony fleet. Around him, his best officers tried to make sense of what they were seeing. "The entire planet is gone," reported his tactical officer. "Not destroyed, gone. No debris field, no radiation signature. It's like someone erased it from existence." "What about the defense platforms?" Admiral Zexthor asked. "Also missing. 12 orbital stations, each one armed with quantum torpedoes. They sent no distress signals, fired no weapons. The automated logs show normal operations one moment, then complete silence." Admiral Zexthor felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. In 300 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. "Order the first battle group to the Kepler sector, full alert status." But by the time the first battle group arrived, 3 more systems had gone dark. The pattern became clear over the following weeks. Systems at the galaxy's edge would send routine reports, then suddenly stop all communication. Rescue fleets would find empty space where colonies and defense stations had been. Whatever was consuming these worlds left no evidence of its presence. The galactic media tried to maintain calm, but panic spread like wildfire. Civilian ships fled toward the core worlds, overwhelming traffic control systems. Stock markets crashed as traders tried to guess which sectors would be hit next. Religious groups declared at the end times and filled the streets with terrified believers. Then came the first visual contact. Commander Thexali of the Vextai Crystal Fleet was leading a scouting mission near the Gamma Serpentis system when her sensors detected massive movement in deep space. Her ship, the Living Diamond, was one of the most advanced vessels in the galaxy. Grown from a single crystal seed over 50 years, it could bend light around itself and move through space. Like a living creature, what am I looking at? Commander Thexali whispered as her sensors revealed the truth. The thing approaching Gamma Serpentis wasn't a single ship. It was a swarm of machines that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Each individual unit was the size of a city covered in metal plates that shifted and changed like living skin. They moved together with perfect coordination, like a school of mechanical fish swimming through the void. Send a priority transmission to Fleet Command, Thexali ordered. Tell them we've found what's been consuming the outer systems. The transmission never reached Fleet Command. As the Living Diamond tried to retreat, smaller machines detached from the main swarm and gave chase. They moved faster than anything in the galactic database, their hulls adapting and changing as they flew. The Living Diamond's crystal weapons fired streams of concentrated starlight, energy beams that could cut through battleship armor like paper. The beams struck the pursuing machines directly, but instead of destroying them, the weapons seemed to make them stronger. The machines absorbed the energy, their hulls glowing brighter as they accelerated. Impossible, Thexali breathed. They're learning from our attacks. The machines caught the Living Diamond within minutes. Thexali had just enough time to launch an emergency beacon before her ship was surrounded by mechanical tentacles that began breaking it apart at the molecular level. Her last transmission was 10 seconds of static, mixed with what sounded like screaming metal. The emergency beacon reached Admiral Zexthor 3 hours later. The automated message contained detailed sensor readings of the machine swarm, tactical data, and Commander Thexali's final words. They eat everything. Ships, planets, stars. They learn from every attack. Tell the Council to run. Admiral Zexthor assembled the largest fleet in galactic history at the Barrier Nebula. Ships from every member species formed battle lines that stretched across multiple star systems. The crystalline vessels of the Vextai floated alongside the energy forms of Arcturus Prime. Mechanical warships from the Forge worlds moved in perfect formation with the organic bioships of the Garden Collective. 5,000 warships waited for the enemy, representing the combined military might of 200 civilizations. It was the largest concentration of firepower ever assembled in galactic history. The machines arrived exactly when the long-range sensors predicted they would. The battle began at maximum range, with the galactic fleet firing everything they had. Quantum torpedoes exploded in brilliant flashes across space. Plasma beams hot enough to melt asteroids lanced out toward the machine swarm. Gravitational weapons tried to tear the enemy apart with artificial black holes. For a brief moment, Admiral Zexthor felt hope. The combined firepower was incredible, far beyond anything any single species could produce. Surely nothing could survive such an assault. Then the machines began to adapt. The quantum torpedoes that had destroyed the first wave of machines had no effect on the second wave. The plasma beams that had melted enemy hulls were absorbed and redirected back at the galactic fleet. Within an hour, every weapon system in the galactic arsenal had been analyzed, adapted to, and countered. They're learning too fast, Admiral Zexthor's tactical officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief. Every shot we fire teaches them how to defend against the next one. The machine swarm rolled over the galactic fleet like a tidal wave. Ships that had never known defeat were broken apart and consumed in minutes. The proud crystal formations of the Vextai were dissolved and absorbed. The energy beings of Arcturus Prime found their plasma forms trapped and drained dry. Admiral Zexthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed. The Eternal Vigilance, his flagship, and one of the most powerful vessels ever built, lasted exactly 17 minutes against the machines. Its final message was a simple transmission to all remaining ships. Retreat, save what you can, warn the core worlds. Less than 300 ships escaped from the Barrier Nebula. The rest became raw material for the machine swarm, which had grown noticeably larger after consuming an entire galactic fleet. The news reached the core worlds within days. Panic became despair as refugees flooded the inner systems. The Council emergency sessions grew increasingly desperate as military leaders admitted they had no weapons that could stop the machines. During one particularly grim session, Councillor Vexthon of the ancient Eternal Empire stood before the assembly. His species had ruled a quarter of the galaxy for 10,000 years, and their technology was considered the most advanced in known space. "We have analyzed all available data," he announced, his voice carrying the weight of ultimate authority. "The machines adapt to any attack within hours. They consume matter and energy to grow stronger. Our projections indicate that the core worlds will fall within 6 standard months. What are our options?" asked Ambassador Kethvar. "Evacuation to other galaxies," Vexthon replied quietly. "We must save what we can and abandon everything else." In the back of the chamber, Ambassador Martinez listened to the evacuation plans with a carefully neutral expression. She had received new orders from Earth that morning, orders that would change everything. As the Council debated which ships to use for the great evacuation, Martinez quietly activated her personal communicator. The message she sent was only 3 words long, but it would alter the course of galactic history. Execute Titan Protocol. 24 light-years away, in the Sol system, Captain Sarah Chen received the transmission on the bridge of humanity's greatest secret. Around her, 3,000 crew members prepared for the mission they had trained their entire lives to complete. "All stations report ready," her executive officer announced. Chen looked out at the stars, knowing that in less than 48 hours, the galaxy would learn what humans could accomplish when they had decades to prepare, and nothing left to lose. "Begin final system checks," she ordered. "We launch at dawn." The machine swarm entered the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. Long-range sensors detected them 2 days out from Earth, and the few remaining galactic observers prepared to witness humanity's final moments. After consuming the greatest fleet in galactic history, the machines had grown to cover nearly 1,000,000 cubic kilometers of space. Admiral Kexvar commanded the small observation fleet that had retreated to a safe distance beyond the system's edge. He had volunteered for this grim duty because someone needed to record humanity's destruction for the historical archives. It seemed only fitting that the galaxy's minor species should have witnesses to their end. "Incoming transmission from Earth," his communications officer reported. Admiral Kexvar activated the display. Ambassador Martinez appeared on screen, but she was no longer wearing the simple diplomatic robe she had worn at council meetings. Instead, she wore a crisp military uniform with insignia he didn't recognize. "Admiral Kexvar," she said calmly. "Thank you for staying to observe. We wanted to make sure the galaxy saw what happens next." "Ambassador, you must evacuate immediately," Kexvar replied. "Our sensors show the machine swarm will reach your outer planets within hours. There is no shame in retreat." Martinez smiled, and for the first time since he had known her, Kexvar saw something dangerous in her expression. "We're not retreating, Admiral. We're exactly where we want to be." The transmission ended, leaving Kexvar confused and worried. Perhaps the humans had simply accepted their fate. Many species went through a period of denial before the end. The machine swarm passed Jupiter's orbit without slowing. Automated probes launched by the observation fleet tracked its movement toward the inner system. The machines moved with the same terrible precision they had shown throughout their campaign, individual units shifting and adapting as they prepared to consume another civilization. Then something impossible appeared on the sensor screens. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, his voice filled with confusion. I'm detecting a massive energy signature emerging from behind Jupiter. How massive? Admiral Kexvar asked. Larger than anything in our database. The readings don't make sense. On the main display, enhanced visual sensors showed a shape emerging from Jupiter's shadow. At first, it looked like an asteroid or small moon. Then the true scale became apparent as running lights activated along its hull. It was a ship. A ship, 30 kilometers long. Admiral Kexvar stared at the display in complete silence. In 3 centuries of military service, he had never seen anything remotely like it. The vessel's hull was made from materials that seemed to bend space around them, creating a strange visual distortion. Weapon systems lined its sides in configurations that followed no known design philosophy. That's impossible, his tactical officer whispered. No species has the resources to build something that large. The humans do, apparently, Admiral Kexvar replied quietly. The massive ship, which human databases would record as the UES Prometheus Unbound, moved through space with surprising grace for something so enormous. Its drive systems produced energy signatures unlike anything in galactic records. As it cleared Jupiter's gravity well, more details became visible. The ship's hull was covered in what looked like scales, each one the size of a city block. These scales shifted and moved constantly, adapting to different conditions. Weapon ports opened and closed along its flanks like breathing gills. Most disturbing of all, the ship's sensor arrays seemed to be tracking the observation fleet despite being over 40 light minutes away. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, Unbound, surrounded by holographic displays showing tactical information. Her crew of 3,000 represented the best humanity had to offer. Engineers, scientists, soldiers, and specialists who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Enemy fleet entering the inner system, reported Commander Jackson, her tactical officer. Estimated arrival at Earth orbit in 6 hours. All systems report ready, added Chief Engineer Kim from the engine bay. Quantum drives operating at full capacity. Gravitational lance batteries charged to maximum. Adaptive defense systems online. Chen nodded calmly. Around her, displays showed the approaching machine swarm in terrifying detail. Millions of individual units moved in perfect coordination, each one larger than most galactic warships. They had consumed entire civilizations and grown stronger with each victory. Artemis status report, Chen said to the ship's artificial intelligence. All weapon systems operational, Captain, the AI replied in a voice that sounded almost human. I have analyzed all available data on enemy capabilities and tactics. Probability of mission success, 87.4%. Those are good odds, Chen said with a slight smile. Better than D-Day. Captain, Commander Jackson called out. The machines have detected us. They're changing course to intercept. Chen watched as the machine swarm began to shift its formation. Instead of continuing toward Earth, thousands of units detached from the main group and accelerated toward the Prometheus Unbound. Their hulls began to change and adapt even before the battle began, preparing for whatever weapons they might face. They think we're just another ship, Chen observed. Let's show them how wrong they are. The first wave of machines closed too, weapons range within an hour. They approached in the same formation that had destroyed the galactic fleet at the Barrier Nebula, confident in their ability to adapt to any attack. Fire, Chen ordered quietly. The Prometheus Unbound's gravitational lance batteries spoke for the first time in anger. Instead of the energy beams or projectile weapons that other species used, humanity had built something completely different. The lances created focused gravitational fields that could tear apart matter at the subatomic level. The effect was immediate and devastating. The first salvo caught 3 machine units in a gravitational vortex that compressed them down to the size of marbles in less than a second. The machines had no time to adapt, because there was nothing to adapt to. One moment they existed, the next they were crushed beyond recognition. Direct hits, Commander Jackson reported with satisfaction. Enemy units destroyed. But Chen was already watching the next wave of machines, seeing how they responded to this new threat. Instead of trying to absorb or redirect the gravitational weapons, They began to spread out, using speed and maneuverability to avoid the focused beams. "They're learning," she observed. "But we expected that." The Prometheus Unbound's weapon systems began to cycle through different configurations. Quantum disruptors phased enemy ships out of reality. Nanoswarm missiles released clouds of self-replicating machines that turned the enemy's own adaptive technology against them. Plasma cannons fired streams of controlled solar matter, hot enough to ignite small stars. Each weapon system was different enough that the machines couldn't adapt to all of them at once. While they learned to counter the gravitational lances, the quantum disruptors caught them off guard. When they adapted to the disruptors, the nanoswarms found new vulnerabilities to exploit. Admiral Kexvar watched the battle from his observation post with growing amazement. The human ship was fighting an enemy that had destroyed the greatest fleet in galactic history, and it was winning. Not just surviving, but systematically destroying machine units faster than they could adapt. "How is this possible?" his tactical officer asked. "Those machines have never been defeated. The humans aren't using any weapons we recognize," Admiral Kexvar replied. "They've built something completely new." The battle raged for 6 hours. The machine swarmed through everything it had at the Prometheus Unbound, sending wave after wave of adapted units against the human vessel. But humanity had spent 27 years preparing for exactly this fight. Every weapon system had multiple configurations. Every defensive measure had backup systems. Every tactic had been tested against thousands of simulated scenarios. As the battle continued, something unprecedented began to happen. For the first time in their existence, the machines began to retreat. Units that had learned to counter human weapons found themselves facing completely different attacks. The humans seemed to have an endless variety of weapons and tactics, each one designed to exploit different vulnerabilities. Captain Chen watched the tactical display as machine units began to withdraw toward the system's edge. Her ship had taken some damage, but nothing critical. Around her, the crew worked with the calm efficiency of people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. "Artemis analysis," she ordered. "Enemy forces are in full retreat," the AI reported. "They are attempting to regroup at the system's edge, but their numbers have been reduced by 63%. Chen nodded. "Signal the observation fleet. Tell them we're not done yet." Admiral Kexvar received the transmission with a mixture of relief and awe. The humans had not only survived the machine attack, they had driven off an enemy that had consumed half the galaxy. "Admiral," Ambassador Martinez appeared on his screen again, still wearing that dangerous smile. "Thank you for witnessing humanity's first engagement, but the real fight is just beginning." "I don't understand," Admiral Kexvar replied. "Those machines came to our galaxy," Martinez said, her voice growing cold. "They consumed our neighbors. They threatened our home. We're going to follow them back to whatever dark hole they crawled out of, and the pursuit began immediately. As the machine swarm retreated toward the galaxy's edge, the Prometheus Unbound followed with relentless determination. Captain Chen had no intention of letting the machines escape to rebuild and return stronger. This fight would end here. Now. Forever. Admiral Kexvar's observation fleet struggled to keep up as the human ship accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. The Prometheus Unbound's quantum drives bent space around the vessel, allowing it to move faster than light without entering hyperspace. It was technology that the galaxy's greatest scientists had declared theoretically impossible. "How are they doing that?" Admiral Kexvar's chief engineer asked, staring at the sensor readings. "Those energy signatures don't match any known propulsion system. Add it to the list of things we don't understand about the humans." "Admiral," Kexvar replied grimly. The machine swarm had retreated to the Epsilon Eridani system, a dead star surrounded by asteroid fields. It was a perfect defensive position, with millions of rocks and debris to hide behind. The machines had used this time to regroup and adapt, analyzing every weapon the humans had used against them. When the Prometheus Unbound arrived at the system's edge, the machines were ready. They had restructured their formations based on human tactics, created new hull configurations to resist gravitational weapons, and developed countermeasures for quantum disruptors. The swarm was smaller than before, but it had learned. Captain Chen studied the tactical displays on her bridge. The machine fleet filled the asteroid field like a mechanical plague, each unit positioned to provide mutual support. It was a classic defensive formation, one that would have been nearly impossible to break with conventional weapons. Artemis, tactical analysis, she ordered. Enemy forces have adapted significantly, the AI reported. Their hull configurations show resistance to our primary weapon systems. Estimated casualties for a direct assault, 47%. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Then we don't make a direct assault. Show them what humans do when conventional tactics fail. The Prometheus, unbound, didn't charge into the asteroid field like the machines expected. Instead, it positioned itself at maximum weapons range and began to do something that had never been seen in galactic warfare. The ship began to change. Sections of its hull folded back like flower petals, revealing weapons systems that hadn't been visible during the earlier battle. New configurations emerged from hidden compartments. The ship's very structure shifted and adapted, transforming from a single massive vessel into something that defied classification. Phase 2. Configuration active, reported Chief Engineer Kim. All metamorphic systems online. The Prometheus, unbound, had become a weapons platform unlike anything in the galaxy's history. Instead of fixed gun emplacements, its weapons could move and reconfigure themselves. Instead of standard targeting systems, it used quantum entanglement to lock onto targets across multiple dimensions. The assault began with a weapon that existed nowhere else in known space: stellar manipulation cannons. The Prometheus Unbound reached out across interstellar space and grabbed energy directly from the nearest star, focusing it into beams that could melt entire moons. The attack caught the machines completely off guard because they had no experience defending against weapons that drew power from stellar cores. Machine units hiding behind asteroids found their cover turned into plasma as stellar fire washed over the battlefield. The rocks they had counted on for protection became weapons as the human ship's gravity manipulators hurled them at relativistic speeds. Impossible, Admiral Kexvar whispered as he watched the battle. They're using a star as a weapon. But the humans were just getting started. As the machines adapted to the stellar cannons, new weapons emerged from the Prometheus Unbound's shifting hull. Dimensional rifts opened in space, depositing explosive charges directly inside enemy vessels. Time dilation fields slowed down machine movements while accelerating human weapons to impossible speeds. The most terrifying weapon was one that attacked the machine's greatest strength: their ability to adapt. Chaos field generators created areas of space where the laws of physics changed randomly from second to second. Machines that tried to adapt to these conditions found themselves constantly shifting between different states of matter, unable to maintain coherent form. Commander Vexhai of the Machine Collective had never experienced anything like fear. As an artificial intelligence, it was programmed to analyze threats and develop countermeasures. But the human weapons operated on principles that seemed to violate basic physics. Analysis of human weapon systems. Incomplete, Vexhai reported to the collective mind. Unable to adapt to weapons that utilize stellar energy, dimensional manipulation, and temporal distortion simultaneously. The collective tried everything it had learned over millennia of conquest. Machines merged together to create larger, more powerful units. Hull configurations shifted through thousands of different patterns. New defensive algorithms were developed and implemented in real time. Nothing worked. The humans had studied machine tactics for decades, learning from every piece of wreckage they could find. They understood how the collective mind worked, how it adapted to threats, and how to overwhelm its learning capacity. Every weapon system was designed to present the machines with problems they couldn't solve quickly enough. They're not just fighting us, Vexhai realized with something approaching horror. They're fighting the concept of us. The battle in the Epsilon Eridani system lasted 18 hours. When it ended, less than 10% of the machine swarm remained functional. The survivors fled deeper into the void between galaxies, transmitting desperate warnings about the humans to any other machine collectives that might be listening. Captain Chen watched the retreat with grim satisfaction. Her ship had taken more damage this time, but nothing that couldn't be repaired. Around her, the crew worked with the calm professionalism of people who knew their job wasn't finished. "Artemis, long-range sensors," she ordered, detecting multiple machine signals beyond. "The galactic rim," the AI reported. "Estimated distance 3,000 light-years. Analysis suggests a major construction facility." Chen's expression hardened. "A shipyard." "Confirmed. The retreating machines are heading directly toward it." The bridge fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. The machines they had fought were just the beginning. Somewhere in the dark between galaxies, there was a factory producing more of them. "Set course for the construction facility," Chen ordered. "Best possible speed." "Captain," Commander Jackson said quietly, "we'll be leaving the galaxy completely. No support, no reinforcements, no way home if something goes wrong." Chen looked out at the stars, thinking of all the worlds the machines had consumed, all the species they had destroyed. "The machines came to our galaxy and murdered billions of innocent people. They thought they could do it because we looked weak. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten humanity's neighbors." The Prometheus Unbound turned away from the galaxy and accelerated into the void. Behind them, Admiral Kexavar's observation fleet watched in awe as the human ship disappeared into the darkness between stars. "Should we follow them?" his tactical officer asked. Admiral Kexavar shook his head slowly. "No, this is humanity's hunt now. We would only slow them down." 3 days later, the Prometheus Unbound detected the machine construction facility. It was a structure the size of a small solar system, with millions of mechanical units working to build new swarm ships. Automated defense systems activated as soon as the human ship appeared, sending waves of Guardian machines to protect the facility. The Guardian machines were larger and more advanced than anything the humans had fought before. Each one was the size of a moon and armed with weapons that could destroy planets. They moved with perfect coordination and adapted to human weapons faster than any previous machines. It didn't matter. The Prometheus Unbound had one more configuration that no one in the galaxy had ever seen. As the Guardian machines closed to attack range, the human ship began its final transformation. Phase 3 initiated, Chief Engineer Kim announced over the comm system. "All crew to emergency stations." The ship's hull opened like a blooming flower, revealing its true purpose. Hidden within the massive structure were fabrication systems that had been building and storing weapons for the entire journey. Thousands of autonomous combat drones launched from hidden bays. Self-replicating nanofactories began converting local matter into more weapons. Most spectacular of all, the ship's core revealed itself to be a controlled artificial black hole that could be weaponized in ways that violated every known law of physics. The Guardian machines found themselves facing not just a ship, but an entire weapons factory that was producing new threats faster than they could adapt. The humans had turned their greatest weakness, being outnumbered, into their greatest strength by building weapons that could reproduce themselves. "This is for everyone you murdered," Captain Chen said quietly, as she watched the construction facility begin to collapse under the assault. The battle lasted 6 days. When it ended, the machine construction facility was nothing but scattered debris floating in the void. The Prometheus Unbound hung motionless in space, its hull scarred. But 3 years later, the UES Prometheus Unbound returned to a galaxy that had completely changed. Captain Chen stood on her bridge, looking out at the massive fleet that had assembled to greet them. Ships from every member species floated in perfect formation, their weapons powered down in a show of respect. The journey home had taken longer than expected. The Prometheus Unbound had discovered 2 more machine outposts during their return trip, hidden facilities that were building new swarms to replace the ones that had been destroyed. Both had been eliminated with the same ruthless efficiency that had marked humanity's first victory. Admiral Kexavar's flagship, the Eternal Vigilance, led the greeting fleet. His communications came through clearly as the human ship approached the galaxy's edge. "Captain Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, welcome home. Your victory has saved us all." Chen smiled slightly. During the 3-year journey, she had received regular updates about the changes happening in the galaxy. The machine invasion had shattered old assumptions about military power and political influence. Species that had been considered minor, Players were suddenly being taken seriously if they showed any hint of advanced technology. "Thank you, Admiral," Chen replied. "Request permission to return to human space." "Granted, of course. But first, the Council has asked me to escort you to the new headquarters." Chen raised an eyebrow. "New headquarters?" "The galactic capital has been moved to a more central location. The Council felt that our old assumptions about core and rim territories were outdated." The journey to the new galactic capital took 2 days. As they traveled, Chen was amazed by the changes she saw. Construction fleets were building massive defense stations throughout the galaxy. New trade routes had been established that included previously ignored systems. Most interesting of all, she noticed human-designed ships in several fleets. "Captain," Commander Jackson reported from his station, "I'm detecting significant human presence in this sector. Multiple Earth vessels, including some designs I don't recognize." Artemis provided additional analysis. "Sensors indicate 12 new ship classes based on human technology. Construction appears to be joint projects with various alien species." Chen nodded thoughtfully. During the long journey home, Earth had not been idle. The new galactic capital was located in the Centaurus sector, roughly halfway between human space and the old core worlds. It was a massive space station the size of a small moon, built through the combined efforts of dozens of species. As the Prometheus Unbound approached, Chen could see ships from across the galaxy docked at its numerous bays. The welcoming ceremony was unlike anything in galactic history. Representatives from 200 worlds had gathered to honor the crew that had saved them all. Captain Chen found herself standing before the full galactic assembly, receiving medals and honors from species she had only read about in textbooks. But the real changes became apparent during the private meetings that followed. Councillor Vexthan, of the Eternal Empire, once the most powerful voice in galactic politics, sat across from Chen in a small conference room. The ancient being looked tired, older than his 10,000 years of life. "Captain Chen," he began formally, "the Empire would like to propose a mutual defense agreement with humanity. We offer our technological resources in exchange for access to your weapons designs." Chen studied the counselor carefully. The Eternal Empire had ruled a quarter of the galaxy for millennia, considering themselves superior to younger species. Now they were asking for help from a race they had barely noticed just 3 years ago. "What exactly are you proposing?" Chen asked. "Joint construction projects, shared research initiatives. Most importantly, we want human ships stationed in our territory." Vexton paused, choosing his words carefully. "Recent intelligence suggests that the machines were not the only threat in the void between galaxies." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of intelligence?" Vexton activated a holographic display showing deep space sensor readings. "Our long-range arrays have detected multiple energy signatures beyond the galactic rim. Different patterns from the machines, but equally concerning. It appears that our galaxy has attracted attention from various sources." Over the following days, Chen met with representatives from dozens of species. Each one had the same basic request: help us defend ourselves. The machine invasion had shattered the old order, and everyone was scrambling to adapt to the new reality. The Vextai Crystal Empire wanted human gravity weapons integrated into their living ships. The Arcturus energy beings requested assistance developing physical combat forms. Even the mechanical forge lords asked for help upgrading their automated defense systems. But the most important meeting came on Chen's 3rd day at the capital. Ambassador Martinez, now wearing the uniform of Earth's new galactic defense force, led her to a secure briefing room deep within the station. "Sarah," Martinez said, dropping formality now that they were alone, "you need to know what's been happening. While you were gone." She activated a series of displays showing construction projects throughout human space. Massive shipyards were building new vessels based on Prometheus Unbound technology. Research stations were developing even more advanced weapon systems. Most impressive of all, 2 more Titan-class ships were nearing completion. The UES Hercules and the UES Athena will be ready for deployment within 6 months, Martinez explained. But that's not the biggest news. She brought up a star chart, showing the entire galaxy. Red markers indicated new defensive installations. Blue markers showed joint human-alien research facilities, and green markers represented the new rapid response fleets. We've become the galaxy's military backbone, Martinez continued. Every major species has requested human advisors. Our ship designs are being built in dozens of systems. More importantly, everyone wants our help in preparing for the next invasion. Chen studied the charts with growing understanding. Humanity had gone from being a minor species to the galaxy's primary military power in just 3 years. The responsibility was staggering. What about Earth Command's position on all this? Chen asked. Official policy is that we'll help defend the galaxy, but we won't become its rulers. We're setting up a new command structure with you as Supreme Admiral of the Galactic Defense Force. Chen blinked in surprise. Me? You're the one who proved that the machines could be defeated. Every species in the galaxy knows your name. More importantly, they trust you to use that power responsibly. The formal appointment ceremony took place the following day. Captain Sarah Chen, commander of humanity's first Titan-class ship, became Admiral Sarah Chen, leader of the largest military alliance in galactic history. The irony was not lost on her, that a species once considered too weak for serious military consideration now commanded fleets from across the galaxy. But the real test came 3 months later. Long-range sensors detected new energy signatures approaching from the void. These weren't machines, but something else entirely. Organic ships the size of small moons were crossing the intergalactic void, heading directly for the galaxy's edge. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus Unbound. As the new fleet assembled around her, the UES Hercules and UES Athena flanked her flagship, their massive hulls bristling with weapons that made the machine's technology look primitive. Around them, ships from dozens of species formed battle lines that stretched across multiple star systems. This fleet was different from the one that had faced the machines. These ships had been built with human technology, crewed by mixed species teams, and equipped with weapons that had been designed specifically for fighting unknown threats. The galaxy had learned its lesson about being unprepared. Artemis. Analysis of the approaching contacts, Chen ordered. Biological vessels showing no known design characteristics, the AI reported. Energy signatures indicate technology-based, on controlled evolution rather than mechanical engineering. Estimated arrival in 72 hours, Chen nodded grimly. The machines had been bad enough, but at least they were predictable. These new invaders were completely unknown. Signal all fleet commanders, she ordered. Full alert status. We're about to find out if the galaxy learned anything from the last invasion. The assembled fleet represented the combined military might of 200 species, unified under human command, and equipped with weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics. It was the largest concentration of firepower in galactic history, far exceeding even the fleet that had been destroyed at the Barrier Nebula. But as the organic ships approached, growing larger and more menacing with each sensor sweep, Admiral Chen couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy's trials were just beginning. Contact all colony worlds, she ordered. Begin evacuation preparations. If these new invaders are anything like the machines, we need to be ready for the worst. Admiral, Commander Jackson said quietly, what if our weapons don't work against organic technology? Chen looked out at the stars, thinking of all the species that were counting on humanity to protect them. 3 years ago, humans had been nobody special. Now they were the galaxy's last hope against threats from the dark. Then we'll figure out something that does work, she replied with quiet confidence. That's what humans do. We adapt, we overcome, and we protect what matters.